Welcome to my review of how I've gone with my results in sports betting for 2022 and what am I trying to do within the next year and what are my goals and processes that I'll be working towards over the next 12 months. So let's jump into it. So 2022 review, I've broken down into 4 sections and I'll talk about each as I go through. So the first one was turnover. Now, I've given myself a score here of 2 out of 10. My turnover was down dramatically this year, especially in the staked and risked amounts. The reasons I've got turnover in there with 3 different types is to give a bit of an idea of how you can look at turnover. So the easiest one of those is probably matched bets. How many bets did I actually have matched during the year? And I had just over 164,000 bets matched, which is quite a few bets every day. That must be more than 500 bets a day. And then I've got the turnover by risked and staked amount. So the reason I have the two is there's a difference between how much you risk and how much you would get if you staked, because I do a combination of both backing horses and teams and laying horses and teams. So the risked amount is how much money did I risk throughout the year across those 164,000 bets. And if we have a look, I risked roughly slightly more than $74 million over the year. Now, obviously, I'm not risking that all at once. It is just accumulation when you're doing 164,000 bets. They add up very quickly. Now, the staked amount is how much would it be if they were all back bets. So if you think about it, if I'm laying and say it's a 10 to 1, the risked amount would be $9, but the staked amount would be $1. And that's going on a dollar bet, obviously. So the staked amount is obviously going to be significantly less than the risked amount because you can have some lays and obviously you can risk a fair bit across multiple horses. So my staked amount was $509,000. Now last year that was well over 1.5 million. The risked amount was definitely up over 300 million, so it's considerably down. And there's reasons for that, which I'll talk about as we go through the review. Now the next section is profit. So profit was smaller than the previous year. So I really only came in at 86,000K this year. So if we look at that as a percentage of the risked amount, it's 0.001%. But if we look at it on the staked amount, which is how a lot of people look at their profit on turnover, it was closer to 17%, which is respectable. Now, most of that profit came in September, October, November, and December, the last 4 months of the year, where I made 67,000. So I've given my score a 5 purely because I obviously fixed my problems, which I had through the majority of the year, and got everything lined up and working for those last 4 months. Now, just need to have those last 4 months be replicated across the rest of this year and we should be having a good year. Now, diversification, this is an interesting one and something that I look to do a bit more this year in 2022, where I was looking to increase my bets on sports versus the racing codes. So racing codes being the thoroughbreds, the trots, harness, and the greyhounds. So I was looking to get more into actual sports because it's the growing area and racing is stagnant or declining. So even though I do most of my turnover in that area because there are so many races a day, I wanted to have a look at increasing and diversifying into sports. So a lot of different sports that I've looked at. Now, obviously I'm running the case study on this YouTube channel, which has made a dramatic improvement on the percentage of sports because it's based on random sports bets, just to see progressive staking will work on that, which it seems to be working, which is interesting. Now, one of the good things is I'm collecting a lot of data while I'm doing that, so I can start to create more models and get a better idea of how I can actually beat different sports that are out there. Are they as easy to beat as racing for me, or are they harder? At the moment, they're a little bit harder, but I'm getting there and slowly understanding and collecting the data and getting all the features I need for my models. And that's really probably why I haven't got further in sports. There's a lot more data to collect, and getting that data can be a little hard. So considering I have increased my percentage, I've given myself a rating of 7 out of 10 for that, so not too bad. The last one is my approach. So I spend a fair bit of time working on the mental aspects of betting, so not getting too overexcited with the wins, nor getting too upset with the losses, especially when you have larger than normal drawdowns. And also looking at the process I do to create my models, find new ideas, look at new things, am I putting in enough time, those kind of things. So they seem to be working quite well from this year. Now, I've improved those over the years, over this year especially, to have a few extra safeguards in there around code mistakes and code problems, which did hamper me a little bit this year. So I think it's improved a fair bit, so I'm giving myself a score out of 8 out of 10. So let's have a look at the graph of how my results went this year. So here's the graph. Now you can break this down into certain periods of the year. Now it's a day-by-day graph. So you can see that the beginning of the year here in this square was not going too well. I was going sideways for quite a while. And what I did realize at this point here was I had a problem in my code. So now that's wasted about 2 months of the year trying to work out why I was going sideways. Was it just variance? Was there a problem? I eventually found what that problem was. I put in the fix, and you can see that started a nice little incline. So this area here, over about the next 3 months, we started to make a little bit of profit. And while it was okay, it wasn't significant, and the reason was I had reduced my stakes at that point because of the code mistake that I had. So it started to have a nice little incline, and I started to feel a bit confident with it. So I went back and tried to reapply my extra models and changes that I had before without the mistake in it this time. And again, it went sideways. And after looking at this, what I was trying to do at this period was to reduce my drawdown so that I didn't have significant drops while betting. Now, that was probably a bit of overfitting, and it reduced a lot of bets that I was having. So while it made a slight profit over these few months, it was another terrible period where I really just went sideways and didn't make much. At this point, I essentially said, well, last year I did well. I know the code in August last year was as good as it's been. Let's just go back, throw all of the work I'd done for essentially a year in coding away, and let's restart with all of the models and the code which I had from August 2021. Now from there, I've been able to do a bit more analysis on why this is working, and I've been able to add to it and use the same concepts with those without changing those models, but adding new models alongside that increased my turnover. So we then hit the nice period from August through to December, where essentially I climbed from $20,000 all the way up to $86,000, and that was a very nice period. There are some drops in there. Those drops still get up to around the 8, 9, 10,000 area, but in total it really just kept going up, and it was a nice little run, especially through the spring racing, and then it just continued after that. The weather did clear up a bit as well, which made it a bit easier to have a bit of a consistent form with the horses and dogs, but it ended up to be a nice year in the end. So not too unhappy with where I got to, but I didn't break 6 figures this year, which is well down on where I was last year. So next year, hoping to definitely increase significantly from this 86,000. So what am I doing in 2023? So the first one, again, turnover is that top left box. I want to increase it. So I want to get back up to over 300 million risked and the 1.5 million staked. And I definitely want to see upwards of 200,000 plus matched bets, if not even double that. So turnover is a major focus. This is probably what I did for many years, just look at what could I do to increase turnover, and I think it's an area that I definitely find more profit in when I increase my turnover. Second, profit. So this year I'm aiming for 200,000. Now that might seem a lot after I only made 86,000, but you saw those last 4 months. I really only need to do that for 3/4 of the year, and I'm well above that 200,000. So we'll see how we go. Now obviously that was over spring racing, so it's not going to be that good over every 4 months, but let's see how it goes, and 200,000 is definitely on the cards and is where I'll be looking to finish up at least that high in 2023. So diversification, I'm looking to get 3% of my turnover into sports. This is because I'm really thinking that sports betting needs to increase, and I'm going to keep collecting a lot of data that I do. I don't like to use historical data from other people, nor from the areas where I could collect it. So I collect my data live, and I believe that at least allows me to know exactly what the data looked like when my program was going to use it. It definitely keeps data leakage out of one of the areas that is a problem for me. So again, I'm going to look a bit more possibly at automated trading pre-play because of the laws in Australia not allowing us to bet in play unless it's over the phone. But there's a lot of trading systems out there, even pre-play. There's a lot that work in play, but I think there's quite a few angles there that I can be looking at and taking advantage of. And I've done a little bit more manual betting this year. I will continue to do those manual bets and see how we go. Now they are in-play bets when I'm watching these sports. There's a few punters that essentially talk about the sports while it's on, and we comment on whether we think it's value with the current odds. Generally in the AFL, the NRL and cricket. So hopefully we'll do a bit more manual betting this year in play. And last, with the approach, I'm still want to spend more time learning. There's always something there to learn. It's an area that I like to do. I like to read. I like to research and understand. Part of doing the YouTube channel is being able to take that knowledge and put it out there and make sure I do understand it properly enough that I can explain it to other people. So I'll take what I learn and put it on here, and hopefully others can learn from it as well. So that's pretty much my 2023 goals and my 2022 review. So hopefully you had a good 2022 and you're going to have even a better 2023. And thanks for watching the video, and I'll try to put one of these out each month just to give an update on where I'm at and whether I'm on track for these goals or whether I'm falling behind. Hopefully you have a good year. Thanks for watching.